Fire had rules long before people gave it names. Willow knew them all. She said them not as warnings, but as truths. The way you spoke about rivers rising or night falling, things that did not argue back and did not care how you felt about them. Drew learned the rules by watching. Never rush a fire, never starve it, never drown it. That morning the air lay sharp and still. Frost clung to the grass like a thin skin, cracking underfoot with a sound too loud for how small it was. Roy crouched by the stones, coaxing the coals awake while Drew held the tin close, ready to pass it when asked. "Not yet," Willow said. Roy waited. The flame came on its own, small and clean, as if pleased to be treated with patience. "That's the first rule," Willow said to Drew. "You don't force warmth, you invite it." Drew nodded, serious as a keeper of secrets. They fed the fire properly, thin pieces first, then thicker, letting it find its own strength. Smoke lifted slow and straight. No coughing, no waste. Roy stood and stretched his back. "Folk think a fire's just for cooking," he said, "or seeing by." Willow smiled faintly. "That's folk who've never depended on one." She handed Drew a stick, half burned at one end. "Stir," she said, "but gentle." Drew did as told, careful not to scatter the embers. "The fire listens," Willow continued. "If you poke it angry, it answers angry. If you treat it well, it'll hold for you through the night." Roy glanced at Drew. "Same as people." Willow did not disagree. Later, when the kettle sang and the day had found its footing, Willow spoke again. "No water on a living fire," she said. "Not ever." Drew looked up. "Why?" "Because water ends things too suddenly," Willow replied. "And we don't end what's kept us alive." Roy nodded. "Let it settle. Let it go quiet on its own." Drew held that thought, turning it over like a stone. They moved the camp slightly before noon, shifting closer to the trees as the wind changed. Willow showed Drew how to read it, how grass leaned, how smoke bent, how birds kept low when weather was thinking. "This," Willow said, pointing to the ground, "is how you know when to stay and when to move. The land tells you if you listen long enough." Drew pressed a palm to the earth, feeling the cold through skin. Roy laughed softly. "Don't tell folk that. They'll think you're touched." Willow's eyes were kind. Let them. When evening came, the fire was built again, smaller this time. Drew watched Willow closely as she settled it for the night, arranging the stones just so, pulling the heat inward. "Last rule," Willow said, "you never leave a fire without respect." "How?" Drew asked. "You thank it," Willow replied. "Not with words, with care." She covered the coals lightly, enough to keep them alive beneath the ash. The fire dimmed, but did not die. Drew lay down beside Roy, watching the red glow fade to a promise rather than a flame. Beyond the hollow, the wind passed and moved on. The fire stayed, and Drew learned something that could not be written down, that warmth was not something you took. It was something you were trusted with.